Steve Jobs. He said this at a graduation ceremony where he was the key speaker, that life is a series of unconnected events which you only understand in hindsight. Mr. Arun Jaitley and my father were childhood friends, and Arun uncle played a huge role in my life as well. One of the most kind-hearted people I know, and I'm blessed to say I was mentored by him in a manner of speaking. I think that kind of also played a role.
Welcome to Inspire Someone Today podcast, a show where we dive into the stories and insights that has the power to create ripples of inspiration in your life. I'm your host Srikanth, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this journey of inspiration. Thanks for joining us today, Neha.
Thank you for having me here, Srikanth. Thank you, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm humbled by it, and I think I would like to be known more as Neha, just a fun person, or Neha, just a grateful heart, as opposed to all those other things. They just are transient.
So Neha, first up, you are wearing many hats. You are a lawyer primarily, and then you are an angel investor. You are a fitness enthusiast. You do a lot of mentoring for the girls out there. Tell us a bit about your career journey. How did this all start?
Srikanth, honestly, I think the profession chose me. I didn't choose it. Really, that much I'm very clear of. And I think a lot of times, and I'd quote Steve Jobs. He said this at a graduation ceremony where he was the key speaker, that life is a series of unconnected events which you only understand in hindsight. And I think that makes so much sense, because today I can look back and be like, okay, fine, I made these choices because somehow I had to get to this place. So a lot of it is really trusting the process, but we'll come to that later. I'll answer your question. Like I said, I'm the first generation lawyer in my family. We're a family of entrepreneurs, businessmen. My father was a businessman. My grandfather was a businessman. My brother is an entrepreneur. So I'm the odd one out, the black sheep in that manner of speaking. Why I say the profession chose me was, I remember once my dad telling me, and I was very influenced by him, like any girl. I'm a typical daddy's girl. That, you need to know the law of the land for whatever you do. It's very important. Mr. Arun Jaitley and my father were childhood friends, and Arun uncle played a huge role in my life as well. One of the most kind-hearted people I know, and I'm blessed to say I was mentored by him in a manner of speaking. I think that kind of also played a role. I did a double major in law and business studies from the University of Warwick, with the intention of maybe, doing like a consultancy job or something like that. Then I went on to do a master's in international economic law, again at the University of Warwick. And I think by then I was just like, this is it. Commercial litigation is what it is for me. But then there was also this dilemma whether I should practice on the corporate side or the litigation side. I remember I did an internship with a corporate law firm back here in Delhi. And my dad ended up again telling me that, but a lawyer is somebody who actually goes to court. And I'm like, you know what? I feel you, because the minute this is just like any day job. You're sitting in office all day long. And then I interned with someone who was a litigation lawyer, a senior advocate back then. Then she went on to become a judge, etc. But that's when I was just like, I found that in that madness, in that chaos, in that action is where I found like a lot of pulse. Then my career took a little bit of a backseat because my father was very unwell and he passed away. Post his death, I started working with a premier law firm, and where I worked for 10 long years, and I got like a lot of exposure. Through that process was actually a process of unlearning, a lot of process of putting on a lot of weight, battling anxiety, because I just lost my grandfather. I was thrown to the pack of wolves because being the older sibling, I had to suddenly grow up to be responsible for my dadi, my mother, my younger brother. And I had my father's business, because of his health in the last 2 years, had really taken a toll. There were lots of bank cases, etc., etc. What I do now for my clients, I had to deal for myself and my family at 25. So a lot of my legal training ended up happening while dealing with my own father's cases. So my legacy really, in that manner of speaking, was to sort out all of that, which God gave me the strength. And I also believe that we're only tested with what you can deal with. And in that moment, we have our free will comes in, whether we rise to the occasion to sink or swim. And what didn't kill me just made me stronger. Those 10 years working at the firm, coming back to that, I worked on some of the most defining cases. I was at the forefront of a lot of news, a lot of investigation processes, just generally the development of law, handling clients. And it was mad working hours. That was in the professional side while things were just going, it was skyrocketing upward. But on the personal side of things, I was morbidly obese. I turned diabetic. I had anxiety. 2016 is when things really broke within. And I always say this, that 2009 when my father passed away was one year when my life changed, and 2016, 2017 is another year when my life changed. And through that process, I think it was just a lot of self discovery, a lot of understanding that, listen, I have to be my best to give my best to somebody else. Because if I'm not, I'm getting migraines. How am I going to defend? How am I going to work? How am I going to give anybody my best? If I'm anxious, I'm not going to be able to take an informed decision. If I don't feel good about myself, I'm again going to do something from a place of unhappiness. I started working on losing the weight. I lost about 23, 24 kilos in 9 months. That, of course, that process has continued. Today, I've lost about 27. Then gradually, I then I was like, listen, if I have to keep the weight off, I need to understand what do we eat? What's a protein? What's a carb? What's a micronutrient? What's a micronutrient? So I ended up studying nutrition through an online course from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. And I learned some very interesting concepts there, which have defined my life. The most important being the concept of a primary plate and a secondary plate, which we'll discuss later. But that really defines who I am today. And then I gradually took to, meditation and just finding a balance between what I do and at work and what I do otherwise. And today the legal profession is defines me, but yet doesn't define me.
Yeah. So that's why you have coined this phrase for yourself, which is loyal by profession and wellness expert by passion.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Because anything wellness is where my heart lies, but my mind lies where the profession is. Or it's a part of my soul also lies there because I've done it now for 16 long years. So yeah, it's interesting.
And it's not easy to kind of speak out some of the moments that you have had, the vulnerabilities, the doubts that you have had, and how you have not only overcome that, but you kind of keep talking about it. Where does that strength come from? What makes you to kind of speak openly about some of this stuff, and how you have overcome those challenges of self doubt and things like that?
I think we all go through that. I was very badly bullied in school. I was an overweight girl even in school. In the house I grew up, from my mom's side of the family, where I'm very close, I was the only girl among 7 boys. Typical Punjabi house. I was expected to be like this pretty little girl who knew how to cook, who could ultimately to shaadi hi honi hai. That was the mindset. And in school, I went to Counter G to Mary. There were some girls who were just really mean and actually did bully me because, but for whatever which reason, largely the weight, etc. So I grew up with a lot of lack, a belief and a sense of lack of that carried for most of till my mid 20s. Till my father passed away. Life only became about work and sorting problems out. So the first time I really started owning myself was when I started getting validation at work. Oh, she's really good with what she does. But somehow it was always like, oh, she's so smart, she's so well educated, she's so this. She just needs to lose the weight and she'll find a great guy. That also bothered me. Finally, when I lost the weight, I was like, I didn't lose the weight for anybody. I did it because I needed to do it for myself. Today, I sit with a lot more conviction. I understand myself better. I know the values I stand for. So to answer your question more specifically, I think when do we stop needing validation? That will probably never happen. 1%, 2%, 3%, we'll always look for some validation from somebody, some appreciation from somebody. That's a human tendency. As long as you're living, that'll always be so. But largely is when you understand yourself, when you start looking inside, when you go inward and you start knowing yourself, you know your values, you know your likes, your dislikes, you're willing to unlearn, to learn again. You focus on being a better version of yourself every single day. You start seeing and understanding the whole alignment of your own chakras. You need work, you need help. And one biggest life lesson was when you need the help, go ask for it. It could be, I'm not just talking about monetary help here, that's the least of it. Even if you need to see a therapist, you need to see a nutritionist, you need to see a healer, take that help because that'll help you understand yourself. Sometimes, you'll be able to get rid of your limiting beliefs by talking to your therapist. Because unfortunately, through the vagaries of life, when we don't let go of incidences that have happened with us, they sit with us and they become limiting beliefs. And that creates a limit or a limiting factor in our lives to be our best selves.
So how did you go about unpeeling these onions? You understood what the issue was, what the challenges were, and you found answers to that. Not everybody would be lucky to kind of go down that path or would have those kind of experiences to go through self doubts, go through the challenges that I've had. So if people were to kind of say, okay, I kind of relate to what you are saying, but I don't know what the next step is. So help them to unpeel the onions there.
Oh, absolutely. Because, everybody told me when I was in my fattest self or when I was very anxious because, I was just working like mad 17, 18 hours, 7 days a week. That, oh, be happy. It's so easy to just be happy. Happiness is a choice. Oh, lose the weight. Nobody told you how. And I'm like, how is happiness a choice? I didn't understand that happiness is really a choice. Today, having done the work, I understand that. So I think the first thing where somebody really needs to start is there are two sets of tools that I follow. First is the three A's, and the second is the three M's. The three A's are first A is awareness. Awareness is where it starts from. It's about asking yourself some hard hitting questions. Also, awareness, where does awareness come from? Where you take responsibility for your own actions and your life. Because if you are blaming my mother didn't do this and my father didn't do that and my boss did that, then you'll never come into awareness. Awareness is where you say that this is my life. I cognizantly chose this soul. I chose this life. I'm here to learn certain lessons, but what are those lessons? So you start then looking inward and coming into that awareness. Small things. It could be literally small things. It's not that I don't battle my limiting beliefs even today, but I'm aware of them, so I deal with them. The first thing is awareness. Second thing is acceptance that, okay, now I have this awareness that I somewhere still battle that, oh, my arms are too fat, or oh, maybe I need to lose some more weight. But then I ask myself, where is this anxiety or this fear coming from? So you come into that awareness. You accept it that this is where it's coming from, and then you allow yourself or allow the universe to show you a path, or you look for a path, or like I said, go get the help to allow for the changes to happen. That is one simple tool, but it's difficult in its own way to practice. You'll fail, and failure is also a good thing because it's an experience. Again, do fail from a place of awareness that you know consciously what you're doing. Second tool that I use is the 3M's tool. There are times when you go through anxiety through this process of the 3A tool where you're coming into awareness. So the 3M's are really what work for me is movement. I go for a walk. Anything. I mean, my office is in a ground floor. I just step out for a 5 minute walk, 10 minute walk. It kind of shifts your energy, shifts your focus, clears your thoughts. Music. Oh, music really helps. And therefore, learning the piano, when I started learning the piano a few years ago, really, really helps me. And last is meditation. Because it's all about clearing your thoughts, clearing your mind, and any little shift in your energy, in the energy within, will help you do that. And then once you start practicing this, you'll feel. I couldn't meditate. If you spoke to me in 2017, I could not meditate for 2 minutes. Today, I do it up to 40, 45 minutes at a stretch. But it takes years of practice. It takes that resilience. It takes that commitment, because it's all about training the mind. When they say the mind is an unruly horse, you don't give up on that horse, right? You do try to train it. You just have to work around it. And honestly, I believe anything done with pure intention and with love towards yourself, that you're giving yourself love and you're giving every part of your body love and saying that, look, fine, it's okay. I'm doing this because I want to do this for I want to be the best self of myself. So you're giving yourself that love, and you'll see that gradually it'll get better. But you have to be patient with yourself.
And in your career trajectory from being a lawyer to being that wellness expert, you did mention about the two plates that you need to be mindful of. What are those two plates?
So at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, the first thing that they teach is that there's a primary plate in life and there's a secondary plate. So the primary plate is everything that's off your secondary plate. And the secondary plate is the actual food plate in which you put your food and eat. Primary plate is divided into 4 quadrants, which kind of ties up to your circle of life. First is your relationships. Second is school, work, that life. Third is your movement, exercise, that bit of it. Fourth is spirituality. So I have, ever since I've studied from and graduated from IIN, so of course it's an online course, I have tried to build aspects of all these 4 in my day. And I think by the end of each day, I feel very fulfilled and complete and whole. And also, one more thing I've learned through the course is we should find what we love and do a lot more of that, because that's what keeps us in that energy of love, and that's what keeps us fulfilled and therefore happy. So therefore happiness becomes a choice. So having said that, so I think when it comes back to the primary plate, I make sure that when it comes to relationships, I don't leave my house before meeting my mother, giving her a hug for the day and saying, I'll see you at the end of the day. And some of my closest friends, I mean, some live in England, some don't live in Delhi, but I try and, as frequently as possible, try and be in touch with them through either a WhatsApp message, or we can chit chat through the day, even if it's for 2 minutes, but just like, hey, what's up? What's happening? Oh, this is what I did. Oh, by the way, I want to buy this. Or, oh, this is my next travel. So that part of it. And also relationship includes your own relationship with yourself, the speak in my own head. It takes time to correct that self-criticism speech, that narrative that we build about ourselves in our own head. But that's where the 3 A tools help. Awareness, that instead of saying, oh, I'm so lazy, you'd flip it around to say, I have a tendency to delay this. So it's not a negative connotation. It's a more positive way of doing things. So I think that is one aspect of a relationship. Second is whether you're in school and how you performing at school, or basically being productively busy. So for me, it's work, and I mean, like, I have no, being a lawyer, especially on the commercial side of things, practicing white collar crime and insolvency, everything needs to be done as of yesterday. So it's about managing that, knowing that there's good stress and bad stress, and managing work around that. Thirdly is movement. Now, I exercise every single day. I have to really be dying on my deathbed that I won't exercise. Either it's a walk, or it's horse riding, or it's my daily cardio boxing, or it's yoga. But I have to pack in a workout even on a holiday. I choose pedestrian cities where I go for a holiday, because then I just walk a lot. Like, my phone knows I'm not in India, because when I'm traveling abroad or outside of Delhi, either I'll go to the hills. So suddenly I'll be walking like 20,000 steps in a day, whereas in Delhi, I managed to do only about 11, 10, or 10,000 or 11, 12,000. Suddenly there'll be on a bare minimum 20,000, 25,000. Once I did 33,000 steps in a day. So that is very, very important for me. Lastly, spirituality. Spirituality is, we all have our different, is very different from the religion we follow. Spirituality for me, gratitude is a form of spirituality. Being kind to people for me is a form of spirituality. So I work very closely with the bigger picture, where we feed people, about 1,100 people across NCR every day. That's the most gratifying thing. There are times I just go where we're feeding. The most close place for me is AIMS, where we feed 100 people, 100 patients every day. And sometimes if I can make the time, I just go there and, distribute food myself, or even sometimes we distribute blankets in winter. It's just very gratifying. So you keep yourself, and playing the piano for me is very gratifying as well. So I think a lot of it is finding a balance between those four quotients. And to find that balance, it's very important to plan your time. That's one life skill, which unfortunately, like what is the basics of nutrition, which led me to study the course to understand what is a protein, carb, micronutrient, macronutrient. What we're not taught in schools is time management. Because very often we crib and complain, time nahi hai, जिम जाने का टाइम नहीं है, घर के लिए टाइम नहीं है, शॉपिंग करने के लिए टाइम नहीं है. द रूल इज, अगर टाइम निकालना चाहो तो 24 घंटे में सब चीज के लिए टाइम है, 8 घंटे सोने के लिए भी टाइम है. बट इट्स जस्ट दैट यू हैव टू प्लान योर डे. That is a very, very important life skill, which we have to all practice if we want to maximize our being.
Sounds very interesting. Something everybody to kind of give it a try and see how it kind of plays out for their own lives.
Yeah.
And kind of taking it further along. All of us have busy lives. We have our busy work lives. No one better than you to kind of articulate that, because you are a lawyer. You do so many other stuff. Stress plays a pretty critical element of it. More so in a role like yours that you're playing. How does that plan out in terms of, say, you have your own set of ethical principles, your client's interest might be something else that plays on, and directly or indirectly that stress comes on to you. And same is the case with lot of our lives, that what you want to do versus what you are actually doing is quite different. So how do you manage this part of the equation of life or work?
I think stress is something, look, there are two ways of looking at things. And I really believe हर चीज नजरिए की बात है. Stress can either be good stress or bad stress. I mean, I can understand bad stress is a loved one or you yourself are going through some terminal illness, which is bad stress, which can be bad stress. In fact, it is bad stress. Then there is stress where, like I went through this in November, 2023. Suddenly work was, I mean, pressure of work was going through the charts. It was just, I couldn't deal with it and I was overwhelmed. And I remember just one day going back home and crying because that's my instant reaction when I get overwhelmed, which normally doesn't happen. I can handle my emotions well, but it's good I went through that because that also taught me a lot about myself. And then you sit down really with ask yourself, what is your priority? Why is it bothering me? What is a better way of managing it? Because the good thing about every problem is that it comes with a solution. Some problems you find solutions very easily. With some, you have to work harder, which is also a good thing because it makes you more resilient. So one is definitely nazariye ki baat. Two, I think it's very important to objectively ask questions instead of going on repeating, yeah, it's so tough, then you're only going to make it tougher. You have to align yourself with finding a solution to the problem. And stress can be seen as a good thing because it can also push you to grow further. And daily stress management activities, like I said, my 3 M's, just go clear your head with either movement, go for a nice long walk, or listen to some music, or meditate, or go ask for help when you need it. Like there are times like my work partner, I think he's better at, sort of managing his, getting things sort of done a little faster than I do at times, or managing human resources better. I go ask for help, and there's no ego there. Or it's not even help, it's just getting a different perspective of how do you do it? How do you manage kids and work? So, it's just about learning, observing, and most importantly, is knowing that you're giving it your best and forget the rest. I think that is the most difficult part. But the minute one can do that, we're in a much better place. Because sometimes what we want as an outcome may not happen because it's not the time, it's not right for us. So you have to just let go, stop being attached to an outcome. That's when disappointments happen.
And it goes back to the 3 A's. It's all about awareness,
When,
accept, and take the
yeah,
action from there on. Right.
yeah, yeah,
So, Neha, like I mentioned right at the beginning, we are celebrating Women's Day all of this month on this platform. So,
yeah,
in celebration of that, let's talk about breaking taboos. In the
yeah,
profession that you are in,
yeah.
what myths you had to deal with and how did you overcome?
You know, while we've come a very long way, and I'm not trying to make, I'm a very gender agnostic person. I focus more on to find a solution regardless of gender. I focus more on getting the job done or living life or having fun in the moment as opposed to making it about gender. But having said that, I think the legal profession still is very, very male dominated. The way society perceives a woman lawyer is still very different from how they perceive a male lawyer. Like 80% are like, okay, wow, you're a lawyer, you're doing some good work, blah, blah, blah. But then there are times people will always be like, oh, but sometimes women lawyers are very aggressive. And I'm like, that's not true. A normal woman can also be very aggressive, or a normal man who's not a lawyer can also be very aggressive. You don't have to be a lawyer to be aggressive. Sometimes, in fact, much to the contrary, when you're really arguing a matter in court, we don't get aggressive because if the minute you get aggressive, you kind of lose the judge. So you have to be so calm and so collected and articulate, and being articulate and having the judge on your side only comes with calmness. So it's an anathema to aggression. So I think that is one thing that I've always had to deal with. Yeah, I think that's the only thing. Otherwise, I've been very lucky, and thank God for that, that I've not had to deal with too many prejudices in terms of not being from a lawyer by family or being a woman, nothing of that sort.
And for all of aspiring women professionals, particularly wanting to make a career in the courtrooms, what would be your mantra for them?
Oh, be so good that they can't ignore you. Just know your stuff so well that they can't ignore you.
Be so good that they can't ignore you. And
Yeah.
how do you see the role of mentors, coaches, sponsors in this field? Is it important? How has it helped you?
Look, I think mentors are very important. I've been very lucky. I've had three great men as my mentors, Mr. Jaitley, Mr. Saurabh Kirpal, and my ex-boss, Mr. Mahesh Agarwal. I think they play, in life generally, mentors play a very important role. We don't give them enough credit, I feel. but by their actions, by their thoughts, by their words, they really inspire. And that's very, very important. Today, I mentor 3 to 4 girls, and I see that there is, I need to be authentic for them to be able to even have trust in me, and B, to inspire by action, not just by words. So I think sometimes getting a different perspective from somebody who slightly has that many more years of experience with life or has different experiences is very important for our own personal growth. So mentors and sponsors play a very, very important role in our lives.
Absolutely. Okay, we have been having conversations with Neha on lot many things. Her stint as a lawyer, her passion towards wellness, life with the courtrooms and celebrating Women's Day here on Inspire Someone Today. We'll slip into a section of this conversation, Neha, which is called as the power of three round. Three
Yeah.
advice that you would give to your older self.
So what Neha at 40 today would tell the Neha at 60, continue working out, continue traveling the way you do, and let go a little bit more and just जी ले अपनी जिंदगी.
Deal app, this zindagi. Good one.
हाँ.
Three things on your bucket list.
A selfie with Shah Rukh Khan, Iceland, and Machu Picchu.
Nice. Good going. Three book or podcast recommendations.
40 Rules of Love, The Surrender Experiment, and Mark Hyman's podcast.
Good going, Neha. Three micro experiments that you recommend our listeners for effective self management.
The 3 A's, the 3 M's, and a nice hot water bath, always.
Okay. So the power of three is really kicking in. We are getting all of the three great answers out here. You did mention about time management, and I have a question around that. What would you
Absolutely.
recommend as three time management techniques that has helped you a lot?
What has helped me for time management a lot is I shuttle, and I have to do this between, my mentoring sessions. I'm also sitting on the board of 2, 3 companies. I'm also mentoring a business where I'm an angel investor, and of course, there's large parts of it is my practice, legal practice, and then my piano lessons because I constantly have some piano concert somewhere or the other, and I need to sort of prepare for that. So I think it's one has to whatever can be done online. Like a lot of times I have legal conferences with senior counsels where we have to brief them for a matter. If that can be done online, I prefer doing it online because that saves travel time. So a lot of travel time gets limited. You can club a lot of activities of the same nature. Like if I have to make memos or oversee memos, I will do that, make a note of everything, and then sit in 40 minutes and do it on one particular designated time and plan ahead to whatever extent you can. Prioritize. I think a lot of it is prioritizing and planning ahead.
Okay, the last of the power of three round here, Neha, is three tools to be an effective communicator.
So I think actually, in fact, I had with one of my with both two of my mentees, we had this thing about having an opinion and having how to communicate. So I think what I really told them, and what I'd say here also, is read a lot, listen to others before you form an opinion, and before you express your opinion, have clarity in your mind of why you believe in a particular view.
That's a good one. Read, listen, have clarity of that thought to articulate.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. That's the power of three. Thanks, Neha, on that. Circling back, you have been in the legal profession, you have been linked with taking on some of the big cases here in India. A view from the courtrooms. What is it like working on some of these big headline cases? Do you get intimidated by the enormity of the case and the pressure from the opponent? So, as an example, I think you represented or you're part of the 2G case
Yeah.
that grabbed all the headlines. So, how do you kind of see some of these stuff? So, again, my question is, do you get intimidated by the enormity of the case or the pressure of who the opponents are?
I think for lawyers, and as a general principle in life, which I now understand and I didn't back then, is that detachment is a very important key. A lot of times they say that a lawyer should never appear in his own matter, which makes sense because emotions get attached to it. So I think detachment from outcome is very, very important. because then that keeps you grounded. It keeps you on your feet. It keeps you focused on doing the best you can. Because the minute you get attached to an outcome, you get anxious. From a place of anxiety, you limit your ability to be creative, to be instinctive. So I personally do believe that I personally now do believe in that. So I don't think I get attached to the
Out.
outcome of anything. I know that in my conscience, I have given it my best, and the best will happen. And if it doesn't today, there's always another day to fight.
Wonderful. And also in the profession and across the spectrum, there's so much of changes happening, regulatory
Yeah.
changes, technology
Yeah, yeah.
changes, all of it. How do you keep up with the regulatory changes? How do you kind of stay updated? And also, what is your mantra behind preparation when you kind of go behind manage some of these large cases?
To read, to be aware, like, constantly reading. And we have access to knowledge now on our hands, right? Because of our phones, our smartphones. So and with so many of these apps, and so there's something known as live law and bar and bench where you get constant updates, talking to fellow lawyers in court when you're waiting for matters, just generally being aware and reading, because there's nothing that triggers your mind, whether it's law related stuff or just generally reading an article. There's always something that helps you. A general read will help you articulate better, will help you draft better. Knowing what's happening in the legal framework will also help you sort of, represent your client better. So one is definitely, constantly reading and being abreast, but also that can lead to a lot of content fatigue. So it's very important to know when to say, okay, I'm not reading today, or I'm taking my time out now. So to strike that sort of, balance. But yeah, I think that's large part of it.
And what does Neha do to sharpen the saw?
Travel, run away. I think Neha post a holiday is on fire.
That's nice. That's a good
Yeah,
de-stressor and also to
yeah,
help
yeah,
rejuvenate for you to kind of get back
yeah,
with full balance.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So Neha, this has been wonderful conversation. Like I said, this show is all about creating ripples of inspiration. Before we sign off, what is Neha's inspire someone today message to all the listeners out there?
Believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. You are your own brand ambassador. So just have that faith in yourself and you can move mountains with that.
You are your own brand ambassador. That's the
Yeah.
headline, folks. On that note, Neha, thank you so much for joining, sharing your life journey, career journey. Wishing you much, much more success. And thanks for sharing your thoughts today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. This is Srikanth, your host, signing off. Until next time, continue to carry the ripples of inspiration. Stay inspired, keep spreading the light.